And with that portion of a piece of music, let us begin. Technology is not my friend this evening, and we will hope that is the worst that you have to experience of it today. So I invite you to take a moment and settle into this place. I invite you to take a smooth breath. I invite you to notice the space that you're in, even if it is the same space you've been in all day, maybe especially if it's the same space you've been in all day. If you have a window, look outside and notice the twilight is starting. And by the end of our time together, it will be dark outside. We are connected to each other in ways great and small. And it is good to be with you all this evening. So come, let us gather together. Come, let us worship together.
Good evening. My name is Sibel Shattuck. I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee, and it is my privilege to welcome you to People's Church tonight. Our church building, currently full of supplies for Afghan refugees, is on the ancestral lands of the Potawatomi Nation, land we share with four-footed and winged relatives. And the winged relatives were much in evidence today, because at this time of year, horn calls of geese draw our eyes skyward, where we see small groups of 2 or 3 or more birds practicing their flight formations before setting out on the great autumn journey. Out at Lake Michigan, monarch butterflies are gathering along the lakeshore, waiting for southern winds to carry them across the continent to their winter grounds. It's a wondrous thing that birds and butterflies can make these incredible journeys. But I was thinking about how one reason I notice their behavior at this time of year is because they do it in groups large enough that I hear them and I see them, which then makes me much more aware of their absence during the winter. Here in our church, we too have our seasonal migrations, our shifting patterns of interaction from summer to fall as we gather in larger groups once again. And this year, as we experiment with new ways to do church together, it feels like we too are practicing flight patterns, learning how to move in sync with each other in new ways, and waiting for the winds to shift so that we can take the next step on our shared journey. Our church strives to be a beloved community, embracing and serving our diverse world. Whether you have been part of this community for many years or are here for the first time, whether you come often or just occasionally, welcome to People's Church today.
I have several announcements to make this evening. The first is just to express gratitude for the bazaar yesterday. So thank you to everyone who did anything, who prepared food or crafts, who shared news of the events, who helped prepare or set up or take down or cashier or welcome guests and help them find parking, and who shopped. It was amazing. We had the weather on our side and a steady stream of folks. So much of this season is about experimentation, and we can count that as success. So thank you, everyone who was involved. My second announcement is about the work of our bylaws committee. They have done tremendous work looking at our foundational governance documents, the things that tell us who we are and how we are together and how our democracy works. And adjusting them and revising them and creating new proposals for this new season of our church's life together. And so if you haven't looked at them yet, I encourage you to do that. And then there are a few opportunities over the next week or so to give feedback. One of them is next Sunday following the in-person service. And there's also 2 Zoom opportunities, one on October 1st at 4 p.m. and one at October 4th at 3 p.m. And if you'd like to go on Zoom, please RSVP so they know to expect you, and we'll open the Zoom room and send you the link. Okay, that's that. Let's listen to some music or sing along or clap along or however you want to be present with the music today.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Look in your eyes and lovers in times, though you look in your eyes and lovers in glory. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Glory yet again comes in times. Come yet again, come.
Our chalice lighting words today come from Ben Sewell. Out of the darkness, light. Out of the light, warmth. Out of the warmth, joy. Out of the joy, togetherness. May this flame hold us for the time we are here with one another. And if you'd like to share in the chat where you are lighting a chalice tonight, please do so.
So for our story tonight, I have something a little bit different to share with you. This is a story from the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Berkeley, California. And it's a story about a mosaic that they made. So I'm going to share the picture with you now. So this is a reflection on this mosaic by the Reverend Marcus Hartleaf. He writes, "The Unitarian Universalist congregation where I served as an interim made a mosaic tree of life the summer before I arrived. Congregants of all ages came together to craft the tree's leaves using bits and pieces of broken ceramics, jewelry, glass, and stone. There are many precious personal items in the tree, including fragments of the Berlin Wall, a father's watch face, pieces of great-grandmother's china, and a key to the front door of a loved home. Like the members of the community that brought them together, each part is imbued with memories and meaning. Each fragment holds a piece of truth. Unitarian Universalists are mosaic makers. We are a people who bring together the broken pieces of our histories and the shining pieces of our seeking, and piece by piece create a mosaic religion. Our tree of life is found in the stories of our living tradition. The bead from a transformational moment of worship at a youth conference, the bit of paper stamped with the blazing emblem of the Unitarian Service Committee that saved lives during World War II, the button or patch on a backpack that proudly proclaims the first justice issue that lit our souls on fire. But our mosaic making tells another story too, one that is often more difficult to see, one that is essential to the purpose of religious community, one that lies not in the beautiful and broken bits and pieces, but in the grout. Grout, the chalky, gritty stuff that is squeezed between the cracks of tiles. In a mosaic, the grout holds the image together, unifying disparate pieces into a whole. The grout of a community takes years to lay and settle. Grout happens in board meetings and committee meetings and endless emails and slow-moving institutions. It is in the potlucks shared by neighbors, a ride to church, and coffee in the social hall after worship. While the folks who show up for church only on Christmas and Easter will hopefully enjoy the beauty of the mosaic they find, they may never know the power of the grout that holds us through all the seasons of life. We help to make the grout when we learn each other's names and when we reach out across generational divides. We help to make the grout when we show up on a Sunday without having checked first to see if we're interested in the sermon topic. When a newborn arrives to be blessed by the community, it is the grout that enables us to welcome them. And it is in the grout that we rest when we gather to grieve and memorialize a beloved one who has died. Hold us, O grout. Gather us in through time and space and make all our broken pieces whole in community. In our multiplicity, make us one. From each of our jagged edges, give us the shape of a communal beauty. People's people are generous people, and you are generous in many ways. One of the ways that this community is generous is that once a month we send our offering beyond our church community to do good and important work in the world. So this month we are supporting our partners at Lincoln International Studies School. And Jemmy Baker, who's a church member who is our conduit, facilitator, connector in this work, has prepared a few words that she asked me to share with you all tonight. She writes, People's Church has always been a community of doers, a community who has looked to where there is a need and how we both individually and together can make a difference for those around us. One of the best representations of this is the partnership we have had with Lincoln School for many years. Our church family has given in so many ways to that partnership, but we have also received so much in return. I know for me, this connection has brought so much joy in the relationships I have built with CIS coordinators, teachers, and especially students. I've left the school crying, sometimes because I didn't feel like I could do enough for the kids I was working with that day. Sometimes because I was so grateful and happy to have the relationships with these amazing kids. I think if you were to ask any of those church members who have volunteered there, you would find similar stories of grief and of sheer joy. These are connections that are so important. The ways that we can all come together in community and be there for each other when we are in need are so important for all of us. There is not just one way to strengthen that connection between People's Church and Lincoln School. There are so many ways that we can do so. Volunteering with the students, either in person or virtually, finding ways to fulfill needs the teachers, staff, and CIS coordinator need to support them in doing their jobs, donating items or funds when needs arise. This last year and a half has brought so much hardship to all of us, some ways which we could anticipate and some that came out of left field. Today, we are collecting funds for the benefit of helping the teachers at Lincoln help ease those hardships in whatever ways they feel are most fitting for their students and their classrooms. We hope that the connection is able to continue and to grow stronger than ever after these couple of years of so much uncertainty. To know one thing for certain, that we will continue to be there for one another, to support Lincoln in all the ways we are able and willing. Jemmy concludes, thank you for all you do. So I invite you to give generously in all the ways you are already generous to continue to support our partnership with Lincoln School. The offering will now be received.
I need you, you need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. I need you, you need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive.
Please join me in expressing gratitude for the generosity of our community using the words posted in the chat. From the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love which none of us can accomplish alone.
People's Church is a community that supports one another in all of the times, whether they are good or bad or a mix. And one of the ways that we do that is by taking time during our gatherings to invite those who wish to share the joys and sorrows and milestones of their lives to do that. And then we place stones into our bowl of water to both show how what impacts any of us ripples out to impact us all, and that we are held by each other and by love through it all. So if you have a joy or a sorrow you wish to share, I invite you to type it into the chat box. I am going to pause our recording. Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed. May the weary find rest. May the sick be tended. May the dying and those who love them find peace. And may the joyous be shielded. And may all of us know that we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists.
Hello and welcome to today's meditation, which is called the Golden Light Metta Meditation on Loving Kindness. To begin, you might want to lay down or at least sit comfortably. You may wish to close your eyes, though if you leave them open, just relax them and gaze down and unfocus them. And let's start by taking a couple deep breaths together just to settle into our bodies. Nice. Now what I invite you to do is focus your attention on your body, and I invite you to smile as broadly as you can. Smile with your mouth, but also smile with your heart. Allow your heart to open and soften your whole body. And imagine yourself surrounded by a beautiful, soft, golden light. And in your own mind, I invite you to say, "May I be happy. May I really be happy from my head right down to my toes." And then say, "I love myself." Now I invite you to imagine your whole family, all the people you're related to, parents and siblings, aunts and uncles and cousins, all the pets, your grandparents, and imagine them surrounded by this soft, golden, shining light of warmth and loving kindness. And now say to all of them in your mind's eye, "May you be happy. May you really be happy from your head all the way down to your toes. And just gently say, I love my family dearly. And now I want you to think of your friends and your teachers and your neighbors and your church family, and surround them with that beautiful golden light. And as you think of them surrounded by this light, in your mind's eye, say, may you be happy. May you be happy from your head all the way down to your toes. And then just gently say to yourself, I love my friends and my teachers and my neighbors and my church family. Now bring your focus back to yourself and see the golden light that surrounds you spreading out to all the people in the world and all the animals in the world. Imagine the whole earth surrounded by this beautiful golden, soft, glowing light of loving kindness. And to all beings, you can say, may all beings be happy. May they be happy from their head all the way down to their toes. And then you can say, I love all beings and I accept love from them too. Now you may slowly wiggle your toes and open your eyes and try to keep this soft, tender heart of loving kindness open and this love for everyone in your heart at all times. Namaste.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
The first reading tonight is The Seven of Pentacles by Marge Percy. Under a sky the color of pea soup, she is looking at her work growing away there, actively, thickly, like grapevines or pole beans, as things grow in the real world, slowly enough. If you tend them properly, If you mulch, if you water, if you provide birds that eat insects a home and winter food, if the sun shines and you pick off caterpillars, if the praying mantis comes and the ladybugs and the bees, then the plants flourish, but at their own internal clock. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what is happening. More than half the tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. But not always, for every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. The second reading is Gate A4 by Naomi Shihab Nye. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning my flight had been delayed 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled on the floor, wailing. "Help," said the flight attendant. "Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late and she did this." I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. "Shudawa shubit uk habibti? Stani shwe min fadlik shubit sewi?" The minute she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. You'll get there just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, from her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition, always carry a plant. always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything was lost.
Our final reading today is Everything is Still on Fire by Teresa Ninan Soto. Everything is still on fire, despite your best efforts. In addition to living, it is clear that fire or not, you must level up in what it means to thrive. Right now, that means wrestling with the truth in the fact that everything is not all your fault. I am sorry that everything is still on fire. Once hate catches, the winds of not my problem blow, and the blaze is hard to stop. But hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You, in community, have an answer. You have a response to systems of power and control and to the cost of suffering. You and your community together are the answer. You are not only a people of flame, but also a people of cold, clear truth. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish and where you still reach. Everything is still on fire, but not all is lost. You remain more nimble than steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough. I'm going to start my sermon tonight by sharing an image with all of you. It will make sense as my sermon continues. For those of you who are on the phone or who can't see it well, I'm going to describe it. So this is a picture of a large stone with two kinds of lichen growing on it. One kind looks sort of like a thick coat of paint and is pinkish gray. The other looks a bit like a coral formation and ranges in color from a dark olive green to white with a slightly greenish tint. Lichens sometimes look like plants or paint or coral, but they are not any of those things. Lichens are a composite organism, which is two separate species that grow together in such a way that they are each transformed, becoming something together that is different than each of them can be individually. So each lichen is both algae and fungi. So to simplify in a way that would probably horrify botanists, it's a tiny plant growing connected within a tiny mushroom. The two very different life forms exist in a mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship. That is a long-term relationship between two different species that leaves each partner in a better state than they would otherwise be. One lichenologist describes the relationship as fungi that have discovered agriculture. So the algae produce carbohydrates through photosynthesis that the fungi then consume. And the algae in turn are protected from their environment by the filaments of the fungi and receive moisture and nutrients from the fungi. So lichens give me a lot to ponder. They are a way of living, of thriving, that is all about mutuality, sharing, partnership. And they are very good at it. They are an incredibly successful life form. Scientists estimate that up to 8% of the Earth's land surface is covered by lichens. They exist in nearly every land habitat on our planet, from the Arctic to the tropics, rainforests to deserts. They are often the first life form to take root on a hard rock that's exposed after an avalanche or some disaster. Together as lichens, algae and fungi can live in environments that would be inhospitable to either of them on their own. Their partnership allows them to extend their geographic range and survive conditions of drought and other resource scarcity. Since I learned all of this, I've tried to pause with appreciation when I see a lichen clinging to a rock or draped on a tree branch. So lichens are one of the most successful mutualistic, symbiotic relationships there is in the natural world. In her wonderful book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants, Potawatomi botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer writes about how scientists have explored the relationships that create lichen. She writes, scientists are interested in how the marriage of algae and fungi occurs. And so they've tried to identify the factors that induce two species to live as one. But when researchers put the two together in a laboratory and provide them with ideal conditions for both algae and fungi, they give each other the cold shoulder and proceeded to live separate lives in the same culture dish, like the most platonic of roommates. The scientists were puzzled and began to tinker with the habitat, altering one factor and then another, but still no lichen. It was only when they severely curtailed the resources, when they created harsh and stressful conditions, that the two would turn toward each other and begin to cooperate. Only with severe need did the hyphae curl around the algae Only when the algae was stressed did it welcome the advances. Kimmerer continues, extending the metaphor. When times are easy and there's plenty to go around, individual species can go it alone. But when conditions are harsh and life is tenuous, it takes a team sworn to reciprocity to keep life going forward. In a world of scarcity, interconnection and mutual aid becomes critical for survival, so say the lichens. The lichen in a single body unites the two great pathways of life, the so-called grazing food chain based on building up of beings, and the detrital food chain based on taking them apart, producers and decomposers, the givers and receivers wrapped in each other's arms, the warp and the weft of the same blanket, so closely woven that it's impossible to discern the giving from the taking. Some of Earth's oldest beings, lichens, are born from reciprocity. These ancients carry teachings in the ways that they live. They remind us of the enduring power that arises from mutualism, from the sharing of the gifts carried by each species. Balanced reciprocity has enabled them to flourish under the most stressful of conditions. Their success is measured not by consumption and growth, but by the graceful longevity and simplicity, by persistence while the world changed around them. We can stop looking at the lichens now. But we should remember that lichens can be our teachers. When conditions are harsh and life is tenuous, it takes a team sworn to reciprocity to keep life going forward. In a world of scarcity, interconnection and mutual aid become critical for survival. We are living in a time of paradox. It is true that we need to keep our physical distance from each other to keep each other safe. It is unwise to gather in large numbers indoors. The hugs and potlucks and visits that we could once participate in without much thought now require careful conversations, managing and mitigating risk, and too often indefinite postponements. This is all true. And for many of us, it has frayed our connections to our communities of care and support and weakened our relationships. It is easy to be the algae and lichens trying to go it alone in the Petri dish. And it is equally true that we need our connections more than ever now, when so many of us are isolated or overwhelmed, when everything is still on fire, when we know that there are hundreds of needless deaths every day in our country from the coronavirus. We need each other to survive. We both need one another's support to make it through these challenging days, and we need everyone else to live and thrive. We need each other to survive and thrive. In normal times, this would be the point in the sermon where I start some sort of call to action, an encouragement to follow the teachings of the lichen and practice mutuality. Reach out and let your metaphorical hyphae curl around the nearest metaphorical algae and create new, powerful, mutually beneficial relationships. And we still need to do that. And I know so many of you have been doing that in all sorts of ways in this challenging moment. And we do that with the full knowledge that our individual, our small group, our community efforts will not fix everything. The world is still on fire. I find myself saying again and again that it is our work. We are called to love the part of the world that we can reach. It doesn't change everything, but I believe that can change things for a few people, which can ripple and echoes in ways that we can't anticipate. So I have a small story about that to offer. Just over 6 years ago, I moved to Kalamazoo with my husband and a tiny baby. You had called me to be your minister, and I was so excited about that. But my spouse and I had no idea what the rest of our life would be. We didn't know a soul outside the congregation, and we didn't know what would be waiting for us. But when we moved in, there was something waiting for us. There was a sign that said "Welcome" by our back door, and it was made for us by our neighbors 3 houses down the block, Jen Rice and Jeff Elliott and Olive Spolstra. You might know them. They have since become members of People's Church, but that's for later in the story. Megan Reynolds, a People's person that they knew, said we'd be moving in and asked if that family would help us feel welcome. They did. Their sign included a children's drawing of a 2-headed dragon and the addresses, phone numbers, and names of everyone who lived on our small block, including the pets. It was such a powerful act of hospitality in a time of so much transition and overwhelm in my family's life. It felt like there was a promise that there was a community in our neighborhood waiting for us, which proved to be true. We have been able to lean on our neighbors and have them lean on us in various ways. Pet sitting and babysitting and sharing fresh raspberries and homemade cupcakes and chalk notes of encouragement, and helping us solve the mystery last spring of whose groceries were accidentally placed on our doorstep. All of the small kindnesses that one might hope for from neighbors. So many small glimpses of the best world. And this summer, we had new neighbors move in across the street. And as they arrived, my spouse and I remembered the generosity of the Rice and Spolstra family. There were no 2-headed dragons on a welcome sign, but we brought them dinner and some of the beer that my husband brews. And now every time we bake something a little bit fancy, my 3.5-year-old says, "Is this to share with the neighbors?" She assumes everything that I brought home from the bazaar yesterday was for immediate redistribution on our block, except for the cookies that look like penguins, which she claimed for herself. So this feels like a small growth of something toward lichens. And this week I reached out to Jen Rice to ask permission to sing her praises and tell this story in a sermon. And she gave me permission and told me pieces of the story that I didn't know. Her family was inspired to their act of hospitality by another neighbor who welcomed them generously when they moved in. And so when we showed up, they were inspired by the hospitality they had received to create a welcome for us. And so I can imagine a chain of welcome that stretches back generations and branches out in all sorts of different ways. She also named that having me be the minister here made it easier for her family to become part of this church community, which has been a source of joy and connection and learning for them over the past few years. We know that we don't get to control the outcomes of our actions, and sometimes that is for the good. Connections and reconnections ripple and echo in ways we cannot plan for, in ways that bring connection, generosity, and hospitality into our lives. When we act with love, good things often happen. Not always. And even when they don't, that act of integrity, that act of care still matters. So I invite you to keep being the generous people that you are. If you have time and energy and capacity, keep finding ways to follow the teachings of the lichens and create connections to survive the hard times, to create moments of connection and the best world from the crises, to put out a few of the ravenous flames in this world ablaze. What could this mean? If you need ideas, I have a few. Bring your neighbor dinner or a picture of a two-headed dragon. Call someone that you haven't talked to in a while to catch up. Offer to help people in specific ways. I recently had someone who knew I was feeling a bit overwhelmed offer to come to my house and do my laundry for me, which was a level of intimacy I was not yet ready for. But the specificity of that ask was wonderful. So much better than the how can I help or kind of vague things that we often do, but to say, I could do your laundry if you want me to, made me feel cared for tremendously, even though I said no. What else? Connect with Isaac and other local groups working for a better community where you are. If there are two people in your life that you would think would be good friends or mentors to each other, introduce them. Be grout in all the ways you can in all the communities you are part of. And this part might be even more important, at least within our People's Church circle. We tend to be much better at giving help than receiving it. So give people the opportunity to show up for you. At our service this morning, one of our songs was Lean on Me, and I was struck by the line, no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. So stepping into that vulnerable place and saying, I need some help, creates the conditions for lichen, a new mutually beneficial relationship to thrive. So as our poem today said, weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses, live a life you can endure, make love that is loving, keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and a bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnection with rabbit runs and burrows and layers. Live as if you liked yourself and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always, for every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. May it be so. May we make it so. And amen.
I think it began when we were young, like a melody with no words, a song unsung. We knew it inside like some great call, that we are connected after all. The salt of the sea is in our veins, the dust of a burning star like years away, like rivers and lakes and waterfalls. Well, we are connected after all. So here we are, here we'll stay, heart to heart on a brand new day. Oil and here in this breath of life inside of me. Together we rise and so we fall, for we are connected after all. Yeah, here we are, here we'll stay, heart to heart on a brand new day. Oil and flame, and a world with hope made new. We are connected, me and you. You were there, you held on tight, my anchor strong, my beacon lighted, joy and pain will set this flame, and we will carry Yeah, here we are, here we'll stay, heart to heart on a brand new day. Oil and flame, and a world with hope made new. We are connected, me and you. We are connected after all. We are connected after all.
So, dear ones, I invite you to take into this evening, this night, whatever metaphor works for you, to be grout or lichen. Send pictures of metaphorical two-headed dragons all over to help people know that they are welcome. We are connected, and it sometimes takes work to make it so, whether that is the work of giving or the work of receiving. So go in peace and go in love.